ready? Okay, you ready?
I told you I'm ready as I'll ever be.
All right. All right. Well, we're rolling. So, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. We've been really excited about this workshop. I'm sure you're stunned by that there's anticipation behind it. But as humble as she is, but this is Peggy. She is how old?
I'll be 92 May the 12th.
92. You would never think it. She's looking pretty good for 92.
Thank you.
So even dressed up for us tonight. But the whole purpose in this workshop is so that people get the idea of what it's like, to be living to 100. And the purpose behind that is get used to it, because we're going to see a whole lot more of it as we go. As of right now, the stats say something like one in 300 people or something like that know somebody that is over the age of 100. But they say in like 10 years, it's going to drop to like 1 out of 30. Like literally everybody is going to know someone that is over 100. It might even be more than that. It might be. I think it might have been even like 1 out of 6 or something. I mean, it's unbelievable. So the life expectancy is making jumps, and we want to kind of get into not really the why, but we're going to tie it all in here at the end. So can everybody in the back see okay? Yes? Just nod? Yeah? Okay. And you can hear us fine? Okay. Great. So we're going to go ahead and start. And I want to start with this very difficult question, just to get our heads wrapped around this. This is probably the most difficult question of all of them. What is your date of birth?
May 12th, 1931.
1931. Okay, so that one wasn't difficult, right? It's only up.
I remembered that one.
Yeah, so 1931, and I want you guys to think about that for a second. Me personally, I was born in 1979, so as old as Dr. Tiffany thinks I am, it really puts everything into perspective as far as the things that she's gone through. So a lot of this is going to be really triggering your memory and going through things of the past and what you recall from things in the past and everything. So. And there is a purpose behind all of this. Answer what you can and what you don't know. There's some things I've lived through that I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember anything about that. All right, so that answer is okay too. So we're going to start with this. You've lived through a few wars in your lifetime that I'd like to ask you about. Did you ever feel any or hear stories of lasting effects of World War I as a child as it ended in 1918?
Well, I heard people that was in it, a few people that were in it, my relatives way back. But Second World War, now I remember that one pretty well.
Okay, so you personally know people that were in World War I.
Well, I don't know them now, but when I was smaller, I knew them because they've gone on now.
Yeah. So think about that. Wrap your heads around that for a minute. That's pretty wild. The U.S. was involved in World War II from 1941 to 1945. What memories stick out to you the most? I know we talked about this a little bit.
Well, we lived in a small town, up in Chapman, Alabama. I know nobody knows where it is now because I don't think it's in there anymore. But anyway, when the war started, we moved to Mobile in 1941 because my dad to work at the shipyard, and my uncles and my grandpa and my aunt was a welder, and that's when we moved to Mobile. And that was not easy, but to find a place to live. People were living in houses like as small as chicken yards and chicken houses and stuff like that. There was no place to live. We lived with my aunt for a while until we could get a house. But it was an experience.
So probably a little different than people nowadays complaining because they can't find an apartment for less than $1,200 a month.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't quite that much. We couldn't afford one of those.
Yeah. Okay, the Korean War was from 1950 to 53. Do you remember anything in particular about it, as it was, relatively short compared to others?
Well, we were stationed in Panama Canal Zone during that war.
Oh, wow.
My husband was in the military for 25 years,
Okay, what branch?
Air Force.
Okay, wow. So you were in Panama during that time. Wow. What was that like?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, we didn't hear a whole lot about it, but I did have a friend that got killed in that war.
Did you?
It was on a ship, and the gun turret blew up with 30 guys in it, and he was one of them.
Goodness. Okay, Vietnam lasted from 1953 to 1975. What do you remember most about living through those 2 decades?
Because my husband was in Vietnam. I forgot what year, but it was kind of to the end of it. But he was he was over there for 2 years. And it was bad for me and the kids because we were home alone and not knowing if he was coming back or not coming back. But we made it through there. You have to just keep going. You just can't stop.
How many kids do you guys have?
6.
6. Whoa. And how
have
old
6
were your kids at the time that your husband was off?
My oldest one was, I don't know. My oldest one she just turned 7. Well, she'll be 71 next week. And my youngest one was 14. He was deaf. I had that to deal with too. It was a master thing, I tell you.
Yeah.
But I made it with God's help, and my brain was still working a little bit.
I think your brain's still working pretty good. pretty good. Yeah, put that in perspective. My dad, I know, was in Vietnam, when he was real young. I mean, he was, I think, 18, 20.
Well, this was his last deployment was Vietnam, because he retired in 68. He retired in 68.
So about how old was he when he was there?
In Vietnam?
Yeah.
He was about 37 or 38, because he retired really early.
Yeah. So my dad, I think, is 70, 76, something like that now. So, yeah, that's about right. Most of us here have lived through, the Gulf War, the war in Afghanistan, the Iraq War, the intervention in Syria, with ISIS or ISIL and all the other names it went by. What stands different between these wars and those of the past?
I don't know.
As far as life experience, what you had to live through in the past compared to what it's like when we're in conflicts now.
Well, it's still pretty bad, I guess, because I don't think people were as mean to people. I mean, I don't think they did such things as they do in this war these days. Mm-hmm. They just kill you for nothing. They were a little bit more practical, I guess you'd say. I don't know.
Humane, maybe.
Yeah, humane. They're not humane anymore.
Yeah. Sad. All right, you've also lived through some significant world events not included in those in particular. I mean, this one kind of is the 9/11 attack, the dot-com bubble. You remember that? All the websites, blowing up and then blowing back down again. The end of the Mayan calendar. Right? They said the world was going to end at the end of the Mayan calendar.
Oh, yeah.
But
I've heard that several times.
As far as I see, we're still here, right? Y2K. Everybody, huh?
You weren't that gullible.
No. Although I did hear one time, and it does kind of make me laugh. That's they say that when the Mayan calendar ended, we didn't know it, but we all actually went into purgatory, and that's why things just seem so messed up right now. I can half believe that one.
I could believe that too.
Right. All right, and then Y2K. You know, that was when the clock turned over to 2000. They said all the computer
Everything was
systems were
gone,
gonna
yeah.
were gonna melt. You
Well,
know,
that
and
didn't
everything was
happen.
gonna go down, and nukes were gonna get fired, and all that stuff. And you know, that never happened. So I'm sure there's a lot more significant world events that you've lived through. You know, over these last 92 years. You know, but the story kind of remains the same. You know, it's we kind of find our way through them, and
Yeah.
life kind of moves on.
You can't just quit. You got to keep going.
You lived through quite a few economic downturns in your
Oh, yeah.
lifetime. I'd like to ask you about them. First off, you were born right around the Great Depression, 1929 to 1933. What did your family say about that?
Well, we lived in this small town, but neighbors helped each other back then. And you know, we had chickens. We raised our vegetables and everything. We had chickens, and our neighbors had a cow, and we shared what they had, and they shared what we had, and everybody lived okay. I mean, we didn't go hungry. Now there were people that went hungry, but I never went hungry.
It's got to be amazing to you to see the contrast between that to the videos on YouTube now during the pandemic where they're putting zombie sounds to people tearing down pallets of toilet paper to beat everybody else to it. You know, they're getting in fights over rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah.
It's quite a contrast. The recession of 1937 and 1938 was second only to the Great Depression. You might have been too young to remember, but what was...
Yeah, I was about 36, 37.
With all of that, you know, with the Great Depression and everything, what did it look like economically around you? You know, what was... When you hear people complain about money and finances and everything now, describe what you saw was the worst of that from what you remember.
I don't know. I never complained about anything. My family, they just worked together, the whole family, aunts and uncles and all, you know. Today, the families don't stick together like they used to. And it's just, I don't know. I really didn't have a bad time when I was growing up because of that. Now, some people did because they had no help or nothing. But then during the Second World War, you had to have food stamps to get any food. And you were only allowed so much food with a stamp, you know. And each family had so many stamps. When you used yours up, you didn't have any more till the next time around. But we still living. So I didn't starve or anything.
We've gone from that to sending out, you know, $1,200 checks.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I wasn't that what it was during the. I think it was. I think it was $1,200 or $1,800 or something like that. A family that was getting sent out.
Yeah, yeah.
Times have changed for sure. Huh? Yeah, and grab a few things of toilet paper while you're there, right? If you can find it. You can hand it to me. That's fine. Thank you. Oh, okay. She got you another water with a straw.
Oh, well, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. There were further recessions. Ready for this? In 1945, 49, 53, 58, 60, 69, 73, 80, 81, 90, and 2000. Okay? Looking back, does anything stick out to you about economic fluctuations?
Oh, no.
No recollection, right? You probably don't even recall that there were that many economic downturns.
No, I
during
did.
that time, right?
I really didn't.
Okay.
Because we were in so many places at different times, so I don't remember exactly what's going on everywhere.
Where are so you lived in Chatham and you lived in Panama. Where else have you lived during that time?
We're in Washington D.C. and Virginia, and Georgia, and Florida, and My husband now, he's been overseas, but we couldn't go with him at the time when he was overseas because they wasn't letting anybody go because he was in Germany and at the Berlin Wall. He was there for a while. We couldn't go when he was there. Well, I spent a lot of time, just me and the kids, home.
Yeah, that sounds like it. The Great Recession of 2008, that was triggered by the housing bubble. Collapsed banks, and many thought we'd never come out of it. With all you would live through, how did you look at that? Do you remember the...
I don't even remember.
Don't even remember it.
So I must have made out okay because I don't remember that.
All right. Anybody in here remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
What happened to Terry? You remember?
Well, that's when I had to sell a $600,000 house for $300,000.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't even remember. I didn't remember what year that was.
All right. We're actually in another post-pandemic recession right now, as they call it, right? What's your thoughts on where we are now and what the future holds based on all the economic downturns that you've seen of the past? What would be your advice?
If things don't change, we're going down.
Everything else was so positive until that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the way it is. You know, the government, they want us to depend on them for everything. Well, I don't want to depend on them.
So, all right. Well, we're gonna play a kind of a fun game on that note right now. It's as fun as you want it to be. You've had quite a few presidents in your lifetime. Or we might get a little partisan here. I don't know. We're gonna play a game. I'm gonna say the president's name, and you say the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Keep it clean.
I don't.
Franklin Roosevelt.
Well, actually, I liked him when he was president. I remember his speech when he was talking about going into war and all. But he kind of got myself turned up there at the end, but he was pretty good.
Okay.
Better than some that we got today.
Well, we'll get there. All right. Harry Truman.
Well, he was okay, I guess. He didn't do much.
That would look great. That would look great on you. You were president of the United States, and there's a bumper sticker. Harry Truman. Well, he was okay, I guess. Right? I'd be like, dang, I wish I did more than that. Dwight Eisenhower.
Oh, Dwight was okay. I didn't know him personally, but he was okay.
Anything in particular you liked that he did?
Well, I guess because he was in the military, he kind of went with the military, what they needed and stuff like that. Of course, he wasn't perfect. None of them are perfect.
And he was the one that actually warned everybody, if I recall right, about the military-industrial complex was going to take off if we didn't get control of it. John F. Kennedy.
Well, he was okay. I liked him okay. I don't really care about the presidents.
That's
Because we have good ones, we have bad ones. Some of them are good sometimes, and they're bad sometimes. But I won't say it.
that's the best point. I might be leading you there. Lyndon B. Johnson.
Now he wasn't worth a hoot.
Richard Nixon.
Him either.
I hear groans from the audience, right? Gerald Ford.
I didn't think much of him either.
Jimmy Carter.
Definitely not him. He gave the Panama Canal back to them.
Ronald Reagan.
Now he was good. I like Ronald.
Did you know that B.J. Palmer, the developer of chiropractic, gave Ronald Reagan his first radio job?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was actually on a chiropractor's radio station. and then he went on to become president. Also interesting, I think B.J. Palmer had something like 6 different presidents at his personal residence. That's wild.
Where's
Like,
that at?
He was
Where's that?
in Davenport, Iowa.
Oh.
You know, he was a very, very well connected guy. I mean, he had to be. He got adjusted.
I'm trying to get adjusted.
George H.W. Bush.
I don't remember much about George W. Bush.
Bill Clinton.
Don't speak the word.
George W. Bush.
Well, he did okay, but he was kind of disappointing in some things.
Isn't that always the
like
case?
Like the 9/11 and stuff.
Yeah. That seems to always be the case, at least in my experience. Barack Obama.
I didn't like him. It wasn't because of the race. I just didn't like his things about, he didn't think Christians meant anything and all that stuff. And now it's coming down to that again, it seems like, that Christians don't have any, say they don't have any brains or something.
Mm-hmm. Donald Trump.
He was okay, I guess. He got us out of the mess, but now we're back in it.
Couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, that's it. If he'd kept his mouth shut, he would have been okay.
Yeah.
But he's talked about too many things that he did, and he didn't do it all by himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Joe,
about the other fella can't do nothing, they don't know anything. Well, that's a lie, because he had to have help to get where he got.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. Moral of the story. That's been the thing all along. You got to have help to get where you're going. Last one. Joe Biden.
Don't even mention that name. He sold us out.
So
He's still doing it.
So moral of the story, looking through it, you've been through, a lot of presidents in your lifetime. How much bearing does the president really have, on who the president is, on how your next 4 years is going to be? Looking back at the conglomerate of everything.
I don't know, but if we don't get a good one, like I say, we're doomed.
So I think what you'd agree is we're in a difficult period of time.
Yes.
But ultimately, there's been lots of difficult times, and it ebbs and it flows, and ultimately, it matters a little who's in office or who's not in office, but life isn't over because one person goes into office.
No.
There's always going to be another rotation coming through. It's always going to go in a different direction. But I think at the same time, we kind of all see that there's definitely been a significant deterioration of culture as a whole,
yes.
of community as a whole. That we don't stick together as a whole, that there's a lot of separation and division and everything else.
And they're not willing to cooperate with anybody else. They just want what they want, and that's it.
Yeah. Selfishness is rampant. Yeah. All right, you've a little more relevant to health. You've lived through a number of pandemics in your lifetime. I'd like to ask your memories of a few of them. Polio hit its peak in 1952. What do you remember about it?
I remember that they made us all take the shots, and my children had to take them. And in fact, my oldest daughter was a year old, I think, in 52. Well, she was born in 52. But I think the smallpox shot really helped, because I know people that had it, and it was not fun. Mm. But the COVID thing, I don't know if you want to hear it now or not, but...
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. So the Salk vaccine was approved in 1955 and quickly touted as the cure. Can you comment on that?
No.
No. Well, let's put it this way. Let me rephrase that. It was very publicly positioned that it was the cure,
Yeah.
right? Was there a lot of dissenting views to that? Where did you hear? Did they televise other opinions? Did you hear other opinions at the time? It was basically just the word was,
Here it goes. Here it is.
this is what it is, take it, and that's that. You got one message, one singular message. Okay, that's kind of the one good thing that's come out of the way that things are today is you at least do have access to other ways.
Yeah.
Other answers. It's not one message distilled down. You at least do have the ability to get other opinions much more than you ever did before. Unfortunately, with that, you get a lot of opinions. You get and everybody has an opinion, and some of it's all over the board. H2N2 bird flu was estimated to kill 116,000 people in the U.S. around 1957. Do you remember anything of it?
H2 what?
H2N2. It was a bird flu.
Oh, the bird flu. You should have said bird flu, not that.
So that was in 1957. Not the one that was just here a few years ago. There was another one here a few
57.
years ago, buried in the midst of Ebola, Zika, and swine flu.
Where was I at in 57? I don't even remember. Where did we live in?
I was born in '56, you was in Virginia.
Oh, that's right. He was born in Virginia. 57. Oh. I don't know. We lived in D.C., but it wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a daughter born in Walter Reed Hospital.
Okay. There were measles outbreaks, 1981 to 1991. What do you remember of measles, as I'm sure you know many who got it as a kid?
My kids had measles,
Your kids had measles?
and I had measles in I don't know, we were living in Florida. I had measles, and it caused my son to be deaf
Okay.
because I didn't know I had measles. One of our neighbor kids came over with measles, and I got them from them. And then my son was born deaf because I had the measles. That's what I know about measles, and it ain't good.
So now we know, and at that time you talked about the economic conditions and everything. Now at this time we now know that vitamin A is what they prescribe if you have measles. That's it. They just give you vitamin A. And the areas of the world where measles is still a problem are all third world countries where they're eating nothing but rice, so they don't have any vitamin A in their diet. So, looking back at that to where things are now, again, knowledge has increased significantly. I mean, heck, now AI is increasing significantly. So, it's that might have been good information to know back then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess moral of the story, most everybody got measles back in those days.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And for the vast majority of people, what was it like? Because now you hear measles and everybody makes it out like it was deadly. Like it just, you can't get it. Like that's the end of it if you get it. So you got to get the shot. You've got to.
Well, I remember they didn't have the shots that much where we lived when my kids had measles.
Right.
But then after it got where the schools, you had to have the measles shot to go to school and all these shots. Then they started getting them.
What about chicken pox?
Well, they had chicken pox too. I had chicken pox. They had
Yeah. I remember chicken pox. I had it as a kid. And I remember standing in the kitchen itching. That was about it. That's about all I remember of it.
I had shingles a little bit of shingles, not really bad, but one time, but they say they're terrible.
Yes, and that's the scary part with shingles. When the chickenpox vaccine came out years ago, I remember it coming out, and we were like, "No, this is a bad idea, bad idea." Because chickenpox, I mean, I remember itching. Like that's it. I mean, that's
Well, you got these little things on you.
yeah. You get the little dots. You know, people would have chickenpox parties, which they apparently still do. And you get it, and you have lifetime immunity to it. But then they came out with the vaccine, and we know that the vaccine doesn't give lifelong immunity. So naturally, it's going to end up, once that wanes off, eventually people are going to start getting chickenpox as an adult, which is shingles. Mm-hmm. And the rate of serious side effects goes up significantly. So now, when you go to the doctor, what do they tell you need to get?
Shingles shots.
A shingle shot.
Pneumonia shot, flu shot, all these other shots, which I haven't had.
So if you've had chickenpox, will you not get shingles?
You have a significantly decreased chance of getting shingles. It's not that you can't. I mean, ultimately, it's a virus that can have it in your system for, and be kicked off by stress and such. But silver inactivates viral DNA. So we've had numerous patients that they get shingles, they get the silver, they start putting it on there, and it clears up. And it'll almost get rid of the pain. It's painful, but it'll almost cut the pain immediately. It's wild. Do you remember anything about Ebola, Zika, bird flu, swine flu, all these other pandemics that? Nope.
I must have been out somewhere. I don't remember that.
Well, they came and they went. They come in the media, and everybody makes a big deal about them, like it's going to be the end of the world, and then it just disappears. And then we're on to the next one. So is there going to be another one after this?
Probably.
Oh, of course. There always will be. How did the COVID pandemic differ from all of these other pandemics of the past? Looking at the way that this was handled compared to everything else that you've been through in the past from a public health perspective, what would you say was different this time?
I don't know. They acted like they didn't know what it was all about and where it came from, but everybody knows where it came from. And first thing they wanted to give you a shot and put you on a ventilator. And when you get on a ventilator, you don't know when you're coming off of it, or if you are coming up. Because I know several people that died when they put them on a ventilator, and they were getting better. Mm-hmm. They didn't know enough about what to do.
Yeah. So a lot of it was panic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say the media pressed this harder?
Yes.
Than pandemics of the past?
And they're still doing it.
Yeah. Would you say we pressed on the whole vaccine issue a little harder than anything that you've gone through in the past?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you buy in?
I did not take a COVID shot.
Shame on you. No.
Well, I'm still living though.
I'm still living. Exactly.
I had COVID too, but it didn't kill me.
Yeah.
The stuff that you gave me took care of it.
That secret sauce, It's so, the point behind all of this is, that you've been through all kinds of pandemics, economic downturns, presidents, good and bad. You've been through all this stuff over the course of the last 92 years. And ultimately, how much does it really make a difference in what's going to happen the next day, and what's going to happen the next year, or the next 5 years, or the next 10 years?
Well, I just be ready for whatever comes.
And through experience.
Yeah.
Storm came, storm went away. You got a clear day again, right?
Yep.
So, the message I think there is that so many of us, we don't have the history component there. You know, I mean, obviously some here have well more even than I do, you know, but we don't have, especially the younger ones, we don't have the contrast, right? You know, we haven't experienced enough of the contrast to really see the good times and the bad times. They're both gonna come, but don't freak out every time that something bad happens.
That's right.
You know, because it's gonna cycle around. It's gonna, you know, it's gonna pass by. Things are always going to repeat. History is always going to repeat again and again and again with economics and presidents and everything else. It's going to, you know, but ultimately, it doesn't have to have a big impact on you individually,
No,
right?
no.
So what do your health habits look like nowadays? You know, and you know, what are the things that you kind of focus on as far as remaining in good health? Because obviously you're in great health compared to most people.
Well, I have a heart problem, but still, I know what to do. You know, I know what I can do and what I can't do. So I don't do what I can't do, and I want to, but I don't. Because my heart doctor the other day, he said my mitral valve is leaking, and he could do something about it. But I said, no, don't do anything about it. I'm living as long as the good Lord wants me to, and that's all I do.
So it sounds like you're more on the conservative end as far as health care, as far as medical care, taking the cautious approach and not jumping at every time something is recommended. Just do it.
No.
As would you say that that's how you've acted the majority of your life?
Yes.
Okay, so you take everything with a grain of salt and don't just jump off the pier because someone tells you to do it.
No, sometimes I get excited and aggravated and fuss, but it don't do any good, so I just have to go with the flow.
Have you found what have you seen as far as nutrition in your life, and how do you how do you approach nutrition as a whole?
Well, I try to eat the proper food and take my vitamins and do exercises, but I haven't been doing exercises as I should because I've been kind of hurting in my legs sometimes. But I just try to do what I can do to keep myself healthy.
You don't strike me as someone who eats a whole lot of junk food.
No. Now that one over there, he does.
Junk food.
If I ask her if she wants some pie or some cake, she's all down with it.
Well, I
Yeah.
get a piece of pie and a piece of cake, but I don't junk food. I mean, like fast foods and stuff like that. We don't eat a lot of that.
So you tend to stick to what? Vegetables, fruits,
Yeah.
actual stuff that grows out of the ground. Yeah.
She likes her Connecticut sausage on Saturday, like with a pancake. Don't we
What
all?
did he say?
He said you like Connecticut sausage on the weekend with pancakes.
Well, he cooks my breakfast every Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. What about soda? You
I
been a
don't
big
drink
soda drinker?
I don't drink soda.
Nope. Okay. What about alcohol?
I don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I've never had, well, I tried some champagne one time and I said, that ain't for me.
What about smoking? Did you
I
ever
never
smoke?
smoked, never smoked.
No. Never picked up any of those bad habits.
Nope.
Okay. And
Now, I tried it when I was a teenager, but it made me sick as a dog, and I said, this ain't for me.
and what is your approach as far as medications go?
Well, I'll take something if I need to. But I'm trying to get off of all that I have to take. I've stopped taking my blood pressure medicine because it was making me dizzy, you said. You said that's probably was what makes me dizzy. Well, it was. So I don't take that anymore.
I did say talk to your physician.
Well, I did. And one other time, I talked to him about something, I don't remember what, but then he told me I could go back to my adjustments. I don't remember what that was for, what that was about, something.
So, but as a whole, you've tended to lean towards the only take medications when you have to, not you want to be on.
Not when every time I have a headache. No, I don't jump to a pill.
Wait, so you.
I know a lot of people.
So what do you do about pain?
Just live through it. Because I never have a headache very much.
So many people.
Just a very light headache. Now he has migraines, but thank the Lord I don't have migraines, and I don't have any kind of headaches like that.
She knows a chiropractor for that. So yeah, so how do you feel about, for example, young athletes, high school kids, taking Tylenol and aspirin before soccer games just in case?
No.
No.
I don't think they should.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can get addicted to that thing, and it ain't gonna help at all.
Unfortunately, I hear that. Yeah, my son told me. Yeah, that's they'll not my son. My son's never had one in his life. In fact, the other day, my 14-year-old said, "What's ibuprofen?" Yeah, like they don't. I mean, none of my kids have ever taken a drug of anything in their entire life.
What reason do they take it? For?
Just in case.
In case of what?
In case they get kicked. In case they get hit. In case they get bumped.
Oh my God.
So they don't get sore.
Well, that's like all that
It's-
stuff they take to beat, bulk up and all that stuff. And I'm like, my son was furious because I'm that mom who says no.
Yeah.
So
It's a strange cultural thing in that I kind of lump that into the same category as, kids doing these Tide Pod challenges. And so I just saw someone, apparently there's a new one, the Benadryl challenge, where a 13-year-old kid just killed himself taking a bunch of Benadryl for, like, there's this thing where kids just are, will randomly just eat stuff because someone else on the internet told them to do so. And really what it all comes down to is a lack of respect for their bodies. That we've never learned that what you put in your body does absolutely make a difference.
Yes, it does.
Right? Everything that you've put into your body over the course of your lifetime has made a difference to where you are right now. Right? So do you feel like your habits over the course of your lifetime have played a role in the fact that you're 92 and still in walking, moving, functional shape?
We did sometimes when I was smaller, we didn't have a choice of what we ate. We just ate what we could get. When I was a child.
But you probably took a whole lot less medications at the same time as kids do.
We
now.
hardly ever, except every year before school started, we had to take this medicine to clean you out, castor oil and all that
Wow.
stuff. We had to take that every year before school started to make sure we didn't get sick during the winter. That was an ordeal.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
You never heard of that?
No.
Are you serious?
No. Nope.
Did you grow up in the South?
Nope.
There you go.
Yeah. No, St. Louis.
No, you didn't grow up in the South.
Yeah, I was born in Kansas City. Yeah, so. Huh?
It was over by the time you come along.
Probably.
You didn't make us do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the takeaway from all of this, really, if you were to distill down the message of, to all the young people here, the two sitting in, how old are you guys? 21 and 20. Okay. So if you were to tell them right now, what's your magic formula to live into 100? What would you tell them? What should they focus on for the next 80 years?
What they eat, what they drink, and that means alcohol and all this stuff and not to take drugs. Because you can live without drugs.
So basically, be conscious of what you put in your body because it
Yes.
makes a difference.
Yes.
Right?
And get lots of exercise.
Did you always exercise?
Well, I had to exercise because I had 6 kids and I
knew you were
exercised
gonna say
every
that.
day.
I knew she was going to say that. Yeah, absolutely. Having kids, you see it happen. Yeah, so what you do absolutely makes a difference. And so many people now,
Yes, it
they don't
does.
pay attention to what they do. You know, it's everything in our existence is about basically not ours. I'm not talking about anybody in this room. I'm saying culturally what we tend to focus on is things that pacify pain.
Yeah.
Right? Pain, we pacify pain with Tylenol and painkillers and anti-inflammatories and muscle relaxers and everything else. And epidurals, when we're about to have a baby. And did you have epidurals?
I had no epidural.
No epidurals, and you got through it.
Yeah.
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 6 times.
6 times. Got easier each time, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Let's see, the 4th one, the doctor says, just told my parents while my husband was overseas, they took me to the hospital. They said, oh, she's not going to have this baby tonight. I said, I know when I'm going to have a baby. And before my parents got back home, I had that baby. And they don't know nothing. If you've had 3 kids before, you know what you're going to have to do.
Yeah. It is pretty amazing that, you go from, basically 2 cells joining together, right? And then that embryo develops over the course of approximately 9 months. And yet doctors think they know exactly what date you have to have that baby or else we have to induce. It's pretty incredible to think about that.
Yeah.
It's really that precise. 2 cells to billions and billions and billions of cells, and yet we think we know better than nature that it has to be that precise. So we don't give enough credit to nature, right?
That's
we don't
right.
give enough credit to physiology. We don't think about the things that we put in our body. Everything is about pacification, so pacify pain. Pacify, we do things that are for pleasure only. We eat things because they taste good. We don't eat things because they don't taste good.
I do.
We learn that as kids.
I do sometimes.
Sometimes, right? But within reason, right? But how about the child who is 2.5 years old and won't eat anything but chicken nuggets and French fries because the parents won't feed them anything but chicken nuggets and French fries because they don't like anything else, right?
Oh, I've got some great grandkids like that.
Yeah.
Well, they'd be hungry in my
And
world.
that's the way we were. Well, my answer was always when patients ask, well, what do you feed them? I said, well, whatever you want, but they'll eventually eat.
Exactly.
And when they're gonna get hungry enough.
Yeah.
So you just let them starve a little bit. It's okay.
Like when I was growing up, we ate what was on our plate or else we didn't eat. 'Cause we didn't get a second chance. If we didn't like that, we did.
So
we just
you're
did
saying
nothing.
we're spoiled today?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
All
And
my great grandkids are spoiled.
that's really what it's all about. Is we become spoiled in so many ways that we miss the big picture, and unfortunately, the fact that many of us in this room are going to live to 100. That's what statistics say. We've got to recognize that, we're even going to be spoiled in that. That when we reach 100, it's not going to be that big of a deal. We're just going to be like, it just happened. But there's a lot of people who won't because they didn't pay attention along the way. So we have the ability to, and a lot of us are going to get there because of that ability to, because we have better sanitation, we have better economic standards, we have better emergency health care and better safety in vehicles and everything else. All these things that tend to happen over the course of a lifetime, they've improved. So our chances improve. But what we do absolutely makes a difference in if that chance is going to happen or not. And that's really
Right.
what the takeaway has to be, is our choices now do make a difference. Even at 21, your choices now do make a difference. We've always taught our kids that, hence why, we don't have to worry about what they're going to eat and such, because they'll be the ones to say no. We don't have to say anything. They'll say no when we say it's okay. Sometimes. Anything else you want to add, or do you guys have any questions on anything?
No, I'm just glad this is over.
Anybody else have any questions? Matt?
Yeah, I have a question. We hadn't talked a lot about mental health.
Control what you think.
So,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because so much of our society, that thought hit me when I was talking about pacification. We pacify mental health. We think that if we have stress, if we have depression, if we have anxiety over things, if something's not going right, what do we need to do? We need to medicate. Have you been through some tough crap in your life?
Oh yeah. When you're home and you got 6 kids, mama, and daddy's not there, you kind of get stressed out. But I used to walk around the house and pray to settle myself down, because I couldn't take it sometimes, especially when we had little fellas that brought us trouble, like setting the woods on fire and stuff like that.
I cleaned the property off for her.
Yeah.
Now she wishes somebody set the wood on fire again, but I'm not 10 anymore, so I better not do it.
I think that's a very good lesson, because, yeah, can you imagine if Jesus is out on the boat, the waves are rocking and rolling and everything, and they come down and say, "Hey, the waves are going to kill us all. We're going to all drown. And he reaches in his pocket and pulls out 2 Zoloft. Like, yeah, that's
Is
not.
this the environment we live in? I'm still running a shop, and some of these young guys, they're so soft, is the only way I can describe it. I'm like, some of the things they come up with, I'm like, are you really telling me that? And, they'll cut their little finger like a paper clip almost, and they'll be crying. I'm like, are you kidding? And they're like, I'm not as tough as you, Mr. Terry. One of them called me Uncle Terry. I'm like, you about cut your ear off and you wouldn't even stop them working. You'd blood going everywhere. I'd have passed out. I'm like, well, you got to keep going, And these guys, and some of them, I had to help a guy change a tire the other day. He's 30 years old and you ain't know how to change a tire. I'm like, what do you people do all your life?
They can watch it on YouTube.
You should, I was gonna say, you could have told them, just pull out your phone and look on YouTube. You got to know that.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think we teach our kids that.
That's why they depend on that phone and don't learn anything else.
Well, I almost hit a guy. I was telling Mom, I almost hit a guy yesterday, or a day before yesterday. He was going across the road looking at his phone.
yeah.
And last I saw him, he was up on the sidewalk. I looked this way sometimes, looked this way sometimes. I pull out, and he steps right in front of me. I'm like, dude, get off your phone. Look where you're going. You almost got killed.
Well, I don't think you're alone in that feeling. Yeah, it's absolutely. The younger generations have definitely gotten soft. Absolutely, and I don't know if you have the answer to that.
No.
Other than
A whipping.
they,
That's what we used to get, a whipping, if we didn't.
That's
Some-
what a lot of
sometimes.
people did, and I think it's remarkable. It's obvious that the spiritual side of Peggy, her relationship with the Lord is one of the things that's gotten her through all this. And as a mother of 5 and Air Force background with my husband too, I understand what she's saying. A lot of this, the Vietnam War and all that, and it's true. A lot of these mental health problems will be taken care of if parents will teach their children about the Lord and to pray and to seek Him instead of drugs.
And run into your telephone every time you want to know something.
Yeah, it's when we have a constant form of distraction on our hip at any given time, in the form of a cell phone, it's very easy to learn that pacification trait, because you have a difficult situation, you can immediately just pull out your phone and entertain yourself, right? Find something to watch, a game to play, something else. So people become very good at distraction. They get in an argument with someone, pull out their phone and do something they want to do.
I have a cell phone. I never use it for anything to make calls or take calls. I don't know how to text. I know how to get text, but I don't, and I'm not interested in learning.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the mental health aspect is a big one, because, even the fact that we talk about mental health as if mental health is a condition, when the reality is depression, anxiety, stress, those are normal parts of life. We all go through them. We all go through it. It's just a matter of, why do we think it's a condition because we have stress? Why do we think it's a condition because we got a paper cut? These things happen, right? But as you said it, we've gotten soft. We have a name for everything now.
Oh, yeah.
A label for everything. Focus on the big stuff, that's really the key. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Well, Peggy, I appreciate you coming out. I hope everybody enjoyed enough to give her a lovely round
Well,
of
I
applause.
hope I gave you the right answer.
Yeah. There is no right answer. There's, it's...
Well, the answers that I had was my experience.
Yeah. And that's it. I think that's where we need to respect each other, is everybody's experience is different. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can still play together.
Yeah.
It's
Some people can't unless you agree with them. They don't want no part of you.
yeah. Well, kill them with kindness, right?
I'll use my cane on them.
All right, y'all. Well, have a wonderful night. Thank you all for coming. I hope it was worth your evening and the coffee in addition. So let us know if you have any questions or anything. And of course, if you guys, anybody that's not a patient here, if you need a chiropractor, we know a few, so we can give you some recommendations. I'm Dr. Mike. This is Dr. Tiffany. Dr. Jordan there in the back.
I didn't even see him.
Glad to have y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you.